Found in California, one of the things I learned right quick was California is really big. I'm not sure if you know that. It's big. A lot of people, a lot of land, big. And so if you wanna get to scale, you really have to build networks of networks. And I've found that, and at least this has been our experience at the Davenport Institute, and prior I headed up a small nonprofit called Common Sense California. Don't laugh. Is that you need to have networks of municipal officials. So if there's not one here in Illinois, I'm sure that there's a League of Illinois Cities or some sort of at least structure that you could begin with, or school superintendents or whatever. California has multiple networks of municipal officials. You need to find a way to get plugged in there. One of the best things that we did at the Davenport Institute, and it was started in Common Sense California, is we have an advisory board of municipal government officials from all over the state that have an interest in improving our public processes. And so unless you have that connection, this probably isn't going to work from merely an outside-in perspective. You need to have those relationships inside. I would also say that I think universities can be a great contact point. And I know that what I've been trying to do in California, I mentioned this University Network for Collaborative Governance, but to have essentially a California chapter of those universities, because California is so big, and Illinois is not a small state, that you have either centers or professors or people that are wrestling with these issues, either in political science departments or communications departments or in schools of public policy or public administration, that can be those contact points or nodes around the state where you can begin to build out either training or education of have a regional presence with public sector officials and get that work done. So I really do think trying to build out those networks of networks, and in the local government world, as probably many of you know, from police chief associations to city management associations to planners to education officials, they're out there. You need to find those places of connection, and you will find some bright lights in there of people that are thinking about those issues, but maybe haven't had the ability to institutionalize it.
Well, in Illinois, we could certainly have short-term wins, and then there's long-term wins. And I want to emphasize the long-term win would be to institute meaningful, hands-on civic education that includes in the topics that they cover things like corruption in government, and as well as what's great public participation, and what do we want to see when it comes to public participation, and how do we want public officials to interact with the public. That could be a long-term solution, and towards that, House Bill 2428 is right now in the Senate. It passed the House. It's the Task Force on Civic Education to promote a conversation about civic education in Illinois, and I urge you to support House Bill 2428. Again, it passed the House. It's in the Senate Education Committee at the moment, and also when it does pass the Senate, cross my fingers, come out and testify at the public hearings. Short-term goals, well, for example, we talked a little bit about open data and the fact that just because governments put data online doesn't mean necessarily that that's promoting meaningful civic engagement. It would be a coup if government bodies will put the kinds of information that the public wants online. So, for example, board packets. The public would like to have a board packet so that when they go to the meeting, they can follow along to see what's going on during the board meeting. Another example, when a community group is organizing around an economic development issue or some other kind of issue, and they're asking for information from the public body, that's probably information that a lot of people would like to see. Maybe post that online so that a lot of folks can access that information readily. Another short-term win, we know that there's interest in Illinois to redefine what an electoral board is so that we can promote ballot access and not prevent people with new ideas or who might be a little bit more embracing of public engagement, that the status quo doesn't keep those folks off the ballot just because of this rigged system that we have. So again, not always rigged, but there's a tendency towards, there's a bias implicit in the system. So those are examples of short-term goals, and I'm sure that we could come up with a lot more.
I wanted to thank, again, Matt and Pete and Maryam for coming to this.